Chelsey, welcome to Elite Business Live. How are you?
I'm very well, excited to be here. Wonderful audience, and for all you viewers at home, great to be here.
It's so interesting. It's almost as if we planned it. So many of the conversations we've had in our first day and a bit have led up to this thought around people power and mentoring as well. So I've got lots of questions to sort of help us go through your journey together. But I thought I'd start a little bit personally because, you know, you've mentored thousands of people. You've been awarded in many different places for your work. But more personally, how did your journey start into becoming a business mentor?
Great question, Ollie, thank you. So we have a couple of slides up here. So my story began because I was presenting a business show at Excel and Midas Touch. Peter Jones was on it, and it was a wonderful show. And I was sharing my wisdom with these entrepreneurs who are pitching for investment. And I absolutely loved it. And I walked off stage, and there was a sign, you know, a roller banner saying, "Do you have business experience? Could you be a mentor?" I'm like, absolutely, you know, 20 years of media, marketing, publishing experience, financial trading, launching a television channel on Sky, floating a company on the stock market. Can you imagine all of these, the skill stack that I can pass on to everyone? And yeah, I mentored lots of companies, and then I got approached by Startup Loans Company to be a lead mentor, which was a government scheme.
Yes.
Well, I think it was conceived by our colleague, Lord David Young. You know more about that.
It was the late, great Lord Young, yeah. So I don't want to interrupt the journey, but that call to action to you, that banner, who was asking? What were they drawing you into? What was that advertisement, if you like?
To be a business mentor, you know.
For the Startup Loans scheme.
Yes, so
brilliant.
it was absolutely brilliant, and I got to share my skill stack with others. Yep. So from that sign, literally one sign, you know, you're all in the right place today because there's signs everywhere for you. And from there, I just loved it. You know, I'm mentoring these young entrepreneurs to, you know, really grow their businesses. And it was just the best gift ever. It was so rewarding. And that's how my journey began, you know.
Remember who you got paired up with? Your very first one?
Oh, it was an export company, which was really difficult. Yeah. But, you know, it's being genuine, knowing what you do and helping them on their marketing. I sent them off on their way. I never had a mentor when I started my businesses. I didn't want anyone else to fail and have the struggles that I did. You know, the scheme was very successful. We worked with James Caan, keynote with Bob Geldof. I was winning all of these awards. I'm like, but where are all the other mentors? Yes. And that's where I came up with the concept to launch National Mentoring Day.
Right, so let's talk a little bit more about that. It's now, you know, the largest celebration of mentoring in the world. But I guess let's go back to basics. What is the aim of it? And I guess it's how you launched it as well, right? Because you know, these things often rhyme. Certainly Startup Loans did. I remember launching it alongside the Prime Minister at the time. It depends on the start, and that does matter.
Absolutely. And of course, we had Lord Young. So he was my first choice. He had my passion and my passion for entrepreneurship and mentoring. So he was going to be my first choice. I asked Lord Young to be our patron. The rest is history.
And by the way, if you don't know, Lord Young, an amazing and unusual man because entrepreneur, businessman, sat in the cabinet of Margaret Thatcher and yet was never an MP. And
I hear that he had the only permanent office in number 10. All the other prime ministers would come and go, and Lord Young had his own office. That's apparently right. Took the Wi-Fi out and was changing the Wi-Fi. He was such a techie. I think I last went to his office, he was 80 odd. And what he knew, I mean, was just incredible. You know, everyone has wisdom to share. And, you know, he was my first choice. I asked him to be a patron. We had the inauguration at the Houses of Parliament, and I stood up there and said, you know, everyone deserves a mentor to reach their fullest potential. You know, so we created the mission to make mentoring accessible to everyone. And we're the only organisation to support mentors, mentees, and mentoring initiatives. Yep. And, you know, that's really important that we cover both aspects, not just the mentors. And we educate all year round. It's not a one-day initiative. Right. We mentor every day.
But I guess it wouldn't have worked because your mission was to spread the word. And if no one had picked it up, then, to be honest, it would have been a bit of a damp squib. So the good news is it has been covered around the world. I think we can get a snapshot of some of the coverage you've had. So I'd love you to reflect a little bit on how that's fueled the journey as well. And we'd love any top tips, because we've been looking at PR this morning as well.
Oh, lovely. OK. Well, you know, the thing with PR is that if you have the passion behind what you're doing, you can reach millions. It's having that drive and that determination, resilience, and just going for it. You know, being brave, being bold, sending your press release out. I remember one time ringing the Evening Standard main news desk and said, "What's your news?" I was like, "Mentoring saves lives. All businesses in the UK need mentoring." You know, it's like, you know, picking up that phone.
Yeah, you should have said lack of mentoring kills.
Lack of mentoring kills, exactly. So, you know, we had a mission to make mentoring accessible to everyone. You know, like I said, we are making a difference here by spotlighting the organizations that are making a difference and implementing mentoring.
Well, let's just dig into one of those, because I think there was a Forbes piece that went out, which was Google goes big on mentoring. And I am picking an example, but just help us bring it to life a bit, because I think it's good to see how organizations have sort of embraced it, if you like.
They have, absolutely. You know, I think with you know, when you're dealing with press, you have to have that buy-in from everyone else. Yes, I'm an award-winning business mentor, mentored hundreds of companies, but at the end of the day, it was bringing in others. So I contacted all the organizations that were, you know, starting to implement mentoring. You've got to remember, a decade ago, mentoring wasn't so prevalent in organizations. You had to have experienced mentoring to realize the power, to realize how good it was. And, you know, one of the things that, reflecting on our wonderful colleague, dear Lord David Young, is that at the inauguration in the Houses of Parliament, you know, he stood up and he said, you know, my mentor literally saved me more than once. And, you know, that's when we had the honor of attending his celebration of life recently. And what really hit me hard is that when all is said and done, this is his end, all that was left was the relationships that, you know, the lives that he changed and the impact that he made.
Yes.
That is leaving your legacy. That is mentoring. It's passing on everything you know. You can't take it with you.
Absolutely. My gosh, you shouldn't confuse your eulogy with your obituary, and probably too many people do, really. What about anyone thinking of becoming a mentor? What advice would you have? And by the way, show of hands, who would consider themselves already mentoring somebody else? Okay, so this is well over half of our studio audience, but we'll come on to improving your mentoring, sort of, you know, leveling up. But what about those who haven't really stepped into that yet? Advice, please.
Absolutely. I mean, this advice is for everybody, because we're always learning as mentors and mentees. We're always learning. So number one is signpost. Great mentors know how to signpost. There's a tendency with mentors that we should know everything. You know, we don't. Don't try to be everything to everyone. I'm very clear at the Startup Loans Programme, you know, all my colleagues who had people who had a problem speaking to the media or on public speaking, oh, send them to Chelsey, send them to Chelsey. Anyone that wanted other things, I'm like, oh, send them to Mike, send them to John. And, you know, that's key. Great mentors know how to signpost, know what you're an expert in and know what you're not an expert in. Don't try and, like I say, cover it all. Now, we have a mind the gap sign here. It's share your vulnerability. When you create a safe space for your mentee, you allow them to open up. Yep. When you do that, you're closing the gap between where you are as the mentor and where the mentee is. You're closing that gap. And what the beauty of mentoring is, if you really do open up yourself about your setbacks, your failures, your experiences, if you're willing to, then you really unlock hidden potential buried very deep within the mentee. They then flourish and they then blossom. So
yes, I think that's such a helpful point. And certainly I've asked many people to mentor me on specific things, rather than putting them on this pedestal. And likewise, I will mentor others on a defined set of things. Because otherwise, I think that breadth can be a bit overwhelming otherwise, Chelsey.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, you know, we have don't try and rescue and fix. Again, this is really important. You don't want to create dependency here. So it's very tempting, again, as mentors to want to jump in because you know the answer. You're all like, like this, wanting to jump in. But don't try and rescue them or fix them. Let them empower the mentee to come to their own decision-making, navigate challenges and obstacles, rather than trying to fix everything. We don't give advice, we guide. Yeah. And that's really clear, that you listen, and you listen more. You leave your ego at the door, you're non-judgmental. And the next thing is tailor your guidance. Where is the mentee at now? The information that you're imparting on them, are they actually ready for that? The surefire way to lose a mentee is to totally overwhelm. I was guilty of that in the beginning. I just give them everything. And now I realize that, obviously decades later, the importance of bit by bit. Are they ready at the right stage for the information that you're giving them, which is key. Lastly, don't hold back. Now, this is an interesting one because certainly in the room and certainly in the world, we're all CCMs, we're all coaches, consultants, and mentors. But, we all have businesses to run. We need to make money. We all have packages, package 1, package 2, VIP package, platinum package. But what I did with my mentoring is just give everything. When you give, you receive. When you give unconditionally, you receive. Word spread about me. And, next thing you know, I've won awards all over the world. And I just gave. And I think that's really important, to not hold back in what you're giving, because it's reputation. You'll get back far more than you gave anyway. It's the most rewarding process ever.
There is a nuance there, though, because the tailor your guidance point is about not unleashing in every mentoring conversation, whereas this final point is much more about that generosity of spirit.
Absolutely. It's about the power of connection and collaboration.
Yeah. So on that, and I can already see questions coming in, but why don't we ask just briefly how they become a mentor? So I need to do more of this. I'm only mentoring one person. Perhaps I need to broaden this. How do you do that? What's the advice?
Well, to become a mentor, obviously, it depends who you want to mentor. So we have business mentoring, career mentoring, youth mentoring, reverse mentoring, peer mentoring, reform mentoring, sports mentoring. Who do you want to mentor?
When you say, forgive me, when you say we have, do you mean you have? There is?
Meaning there is. Fine. Thank you,
okay.
Ollie.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
There is all these different types of mentoring. The skill stack that you have, who would benefit from that? Who would you like to pass that on to? Yep. That's the key thing here. So, would it be in the workplace to your colleagues? Would it be a youth mentor? Did you suffer a particular trauma in your childhood or in your adolescence that you think actually you would like to help somebody, whether it be overcome addiction or
Understood.
a certain trauma?
Okay. So important clarifying questions. Let's say in that case, they say, I want to mentor some school leavers, for example. That might be on a lot of guests' minds, for example. Or I'll just give you one other, because I want some additional practical tips. Entrepreneurs just starting out on their journey. Where would you send those two interesting individuals?
So many different incubator hubs, tech hubs that are offering mentoring. I mean, we heard from Startup Loans, they give you the money and the mentoring, which Lord David Young said the mentor is far more important than the money. Yep. So really, look where you are in terms of your organization, see if they have a mentoring program available. If they don't, speak to your HR teams and ask them to implement one. That's a great thing. And then go local to where you are, and then go industry specific. So Royal Society of Engineers, Royal Society of Construction, all these different industries and sectors, they have governing bodies, and they often do mentoring programs as well. Right,
so this fits together really well. So tell us a bit more then. You mentioned HR leads there, about evolving what they're doing. Give us a sense about how the workplace is evolving then. What are you seeing?
Absolutely. Well, we've got some stats here that you can see them up there. By 2025, millennials are going to make up 75% of the workforce. By 2030, Gen Z making up 30% of the workforce. Now, what's interesting about these is both millennials and Gen Z, they have side hustles. Whether or not we're thinking, do I tell my employer? Why are they having side hustles? Because of the cost of living crisis. Then I'm sure they'd like to relax and, do their hobbies, but they're needing it to have a side hustle to make ends meet. So it's a fact, all the stats are out there. So in terms of, what can be done about this, I've been talking about mentoring now for 10 years, going around the world talking about the evidence is clear that it works, and yet Mentoring Matters.
Yes.
They launched a government report on my National Mentoring Day in 2022, and 5.5 million SMEs are yet to, take up mentoring. This is crucial for SMEs to survive, to thrive, and to grow, that they do this. And now, if we're looking at the fact that 2 billion Generation Alphas are going to be entering the workplace in 2025, 2 billion. Yeah. It's incredible. And they're citing here that 79% of millennials, see mentoring as crucial to their career success. So what if your organization doesn't have a mentoring program? And, the evidence, this is FSB, 70% of small businesses that receive mentoring, survive for 5 years longer than non-mentored companies.
On that, just very briefly, Chelsey, because I want to allow time for questions. What do you say to a Gen Xer mentoring a Gen Z or a Gen Y or a millennial that says their lives are so different to mine, I'm not sure what I have to offer?
What, the Gen Z person?
Yes. No, the Gen Xer says, it's so different, it's so fast moving. I'm supposed to be passing on useful tips and advice, but their world is so different to the one I've grown up through.
That's the beauty of it. You have that initial mentoring discussion and all of this comes out. You start to speak about what are their hobbies, how do they get into this journey, what do they want to do to advance their career, what fuels their passion, what do they like, what's their purpose, what do they feel called to. Once you start with this initial discovery session, I promise you that the rest will just fall into place.
Yeah, this is comforting. I like this idea.
It really does. When you talk about industry specifics as well, Gen X passes on everything. It's reverse mentoring. It's so powerful. That's where the wisdom is transferred, the knowledge transfer.
Yeah. So hands up if you have a reverse mentor, a mentor that is probably a generation younger than you. I certainly have done for many years. Very helpful. Okay, absolutely brilliant program. So how about the benefit to the employees then? How do you make this case, Chelsey? What do you say?
Absolutely. Well, you have a few stats up here. 67% of businesses reported increase in productivity due to mentoring. This is absolutely key. And 82% believe that mentoring relationships, foster meaningful connections across departments within the company. This is just, you're really keeping and transferring the wisdom within the company. Yeah. Otherwise, certainly the millennials and the Gen Zs, they're just job hopping. The stats are out that, as soon as they have a job or they go into a new job that they want to quit, then they want to just job hop and need that excitement. They're searching for that buzz. So it's really key. And 94% of employees say that they'd stay longer at their company if they were offered opportunities to learn and grow. That's mentoring, learning and development, and implementing something where you feel that you belong within the company.
So it's kind of this final point I want to draw on a bit, because you talked about productivity, about retention, but on that 82% about it's about meaningful connection. This is actually shifting a culture, really, of a company,
it's changing the workplace dramatically. There's a lot of toxic workplaces. There's a lot of places where, the employees are not happy. They're not engaged. They're not producing. They're just in a soulless organization. Who's ever walked into a hotel and, a big hotel and thought, there's no atmosphere in here. It's soulless. That can be said to, the same for organizations. You want to be part of a really dynamic organization where it's thriving and the hustle and bustle.
And mentoring is about that. It's about connection, isn't it? Whether it's across generations, departments, getting people talking to each other, right? So I think we've got some additional benefits here. Tell us.
Absolutely. So, the key thing is that mentoring is, it works across all generations. That's the key here. All sectors, all industries, it works. Yep. So mentoring supports mental health and well-being. And of course, there's more and more Gen Z, more millennials. This is key to them, feeling supported. So, in terms of mental health, mentoring, it boosts self-esteem, confidence, self-awareness, self-belief. What a boost having a mentor. It's a real confidence boost.
But it's such an interesting lesson for me, just listening, not just adopting this on a personal level, but also on an organizational level. So if somebody listening is saying, right, I'm interested in this, how do they get more involved, particularly with National Mentoring Day?
Absolutely. I just finished this slide quickly because I've got something very interesting to say about side hustles. So mentoring encourages career progression within the company, supporting side hustle innovation. Can you imagine the employee works 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9? Can you imagine if they all have 2/3 of millennials and Gen Z have side hustles, and you actually have an innovation hub or a resource hub for them to go after they finish work, to go and be creative for the organization. What that does, it keeps them engaged. But Google did this. It was called 20% time, and 1/5 of their day, they were sent over to have this creative and innovation time. Out of that came Gmail. Out of that side hustle innovation.
Well, to be fair, it wasn't side hustle because it was side hustle time. Well, side hustle time to benefit the company.
That's the thing. You either can set up an entrepreneurship resource hub, or you can do it within the organization for them to be creative, to benefit the organization and come up with creative concepts. So again, mentoring, it keeps the wisdom within the company, helps with succession planning, developing leaders and managers, implementing DE&I programs. I've just been speaking and obviously in New York and watching all the United Nations conferences. It massively helps with gender equality.
Under that though, Chelsey, just gets us thinking, doesn't it, about that building of trust between people in an organization to say, look, I'm not monitoring your every move. I trust you to go and take risks with ideas, to experiment, to do other things.
Absolutely.
Because to me, it's that is another byproduct of that relationship. Which
it's
is
all about trust,
psychological
and
safety,
integrity.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us more. How can we get more involved?
So on this one, basically 8.8 trillion a year is lost in productivity. So mentoring really is the answer. It increases productivity. Happier employees, they produce more, they do more, they perform better. It leads to all these other wonderful, wonderful benefits. And in a Gallup study, they said that, employees are only engaged at work for 3 hours. I mean, these stats are incredible, and only 23% are actually engaged. I've got lots of people nodding here. I think you had Charlie Mullins yesterday saying that they're off at the beauty parlour and off at the hairdressers yesterday. If they're not engaged, how can you make them engaged? Create an innovation hub, create an entrepreneurship hub. Don't let them go out, do that. So how can businesses get involved? National Mentoring Day exists for you, for organisations. If you have a mentoring initiative, then showcase what you do. Share, the impact, the results of your mentoring, your case studies. It's your day, and in the lead up to it, it's nicely towards the end of the year for you to share your data, share who's come through, your mentoring program. If you don't have one, launch your mentoring program on or around National Mentoring Day, October the 27th.
October the 27th, there it is.
And join the Mentoring Ask. So what is that? So if you've been mentored, the stats say that you go on to mentor someone else. So we ask everyone on or around the 27th of October, doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks before or a month before, mentor someone. Everyone has something to learn as a mentor. Everyone has something to learn as a mentee. Can you imagine what the world would look like if everybody mentored someone? We all have this experience, knowledge and skill stack to pass on. Don't think, I don't know enough. You got here today. You know enough. It's a time to celebrate mentors. Thank the mentors in your organization. But most importantly, it's not a one-day initiative. What happens is this day is the annual celebration. It helps people to put their hand up and say, I need support, I need help, I need a mentor. And it encourages people with, social media is just awash with all these mentoring initiatives taking place, for people to actually say, yeah, I want to be a mentor.
Yes.
I want to leave a legacy. I want to share my experience with somebody. And of course, we have all of this on our website. There's a free Get Involved pack and 150 resources, a countdown calendar. It's your day.
So I want to leave just a bit of time for sort of what comes next. But a question just coming in here. How can I find, or can I find mentors from different industries? That's an interesting question. Or do they have to be from the same industry as me? Are their skills transferable? Your take on that, Chelsey?
Absolutely love that. I've been privy to many different conversations where people have been moaning to me, what do they know about my industry? They don't understand my sector. How are they going to help me with career progression because they don't know my industry? And the beauty and the wisdom that's gained when they're not in your industry, I have just seen that working very, very well because it's wider perspective, giving you the perspective for things you hadn't even thought about. That's the beauty of mentoring. It brings out strengths in you and skills in you that you didn't even know you had. So it's absolutely recommended. Doesn't have to be within the organization. Cross-industry, cross-sector, excellent choice.
Yeah, okay, so final question. I want to be a mentor, but I'm not a successful business owner. Is it still possible to be a mentor, even if I haven't achieved big success?
Absolutely. I was at Warwick Business School the other day, and we were talking about intergenerational leadership. And one of the students taking our MBA, came up to me and said, how many boards do you need to have sat on to be a mentor? And I was taken a bit back, and I said, "Excuse me, could you repeat the question?" And I looked at her and I said, you have come into Warwick Business School, you have taken your MBA, you are here. Can you imagine all those skills that you could pass on to someone else of what it was like to apply, what it was like to get in, what it was like to do the course? Just that skill stack that you have, anyone can mentor at any age, hence why we have youth mentors.
Yeah, and back on that reverse mentoring point,
absolutely, right? Reverse mentoring is key to train people with the AI and the tech that's coming.
One of my favourite schemes I chaired back in the day was the deputy chair of Barclays Bank, and we teamed them up with an 18-year-old, and they became best buddies because the 18-year-old was coaching them on tech and apps. And the first meeting, apparently, the deputy chair confessed he didn't even know how to access his own voicemail, but he just hadn't told anyone.
I tell you, you learn so much from your mentees, so much, even if you think you know everything.
And it is back to that safe space as well, isn't it? Just being able to say, look, I'm not telling everyone this.
Absolutely. I love mentoring younger generation. And like I say, over 50s,
Well, I'm being mentored by the younger generation. That's the flip,
absolutely,
I suppose. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So give us a quick sense of what's coming next.
Okay, so as you can see, it's the 10th anniversary of National Mentoring Day this year. We all have a role to play. It's about collaboration and interconnectedness. So, really consider what your business can do. If you are a CEO, then think about it. It's lonely at the top. Mentoring helps you get to where you want to be far faster, far quicker, and saving you half the stress and half the hassle. Having that sounding board to talk to somebody who's been there, CEO to CEO. I mentor lots of CEOs and they mentor me. Absolutely wonderful. Let's get the country mentoring. You subscribe to our website, nationalmentoringday.org. We have National Mentoring News on there. And for the month of October, we're going to be really profiling the organizations that have mentoring initiatives. It's going to be like a whole month of celebrations. And just remember, you can't take your knowledge with you. So let's get united in mentoring. Let's get mentoring. Don't be afraid to ask. It's not a weakness. It's actually a strength to ask for support.
Yeah, 100%. And I would absolutely take this chance to just say a massive thanks to the mentors that have changed my life, and to anyone out there who wants to get involved in National Mentoring Day, I would absolutely thoroughly encourage it. Will you raise your hand if you'd be up for taking part in a way, small or large, with this year's National Mentoring Day? Chelsey, we've got some brilliant... I'm relieved you're up for it. Will you join me in saying a huge thank you to Chelsey Baker? Thank you, Chelsey.
Thank you.